it. Okay, so I'm Shelley Hawthorne Smith, and I'm the Assistant Director of the Office of Fellowships and Community Engagement. Georgia, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Georgia Ellers, and I'm work with Shelley on grants and fellowships, and I'm the director of the Office of Fellowships and Community Engagement for the time being. And we work together on identifying a priority nominee for that the university can nominate each year. But we also work with other students applying to DAAD. So we're glad you're all here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So Georgia and I will just switch back and forth and fill in the holes here. So just as a really general introduction, the DAAD is the German Academic Exchange Service, and it's the German national agencies for supporting international academic cooperation. It's funded by the German Federal Foreign Office and then other organizations as well. And it does provide a lot of support. So it's a great one to apply to. I think in general, we found that students have a great experience with DAAD, that they're really supportive and committed to their mission. So there are a number of international offices, and their motto is change by exchange. And it's a good idea to spend some time on their website and kind of get a sense of what their mission and values are. George, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So this slide describes their mission. And one thing about this organization is it's well funded through the government. So it's one of the larger exchange programs out there. And it's very expansive in terms of eligibility and the different disciplines that they fund. So they have a number of different programs. They can be a little confusing to go through them because they also support faculty and undergrads and all kinds of things. So there is a small group we'll talk about, but their mission is to educate future leaders who are connected internationally and act globally responsibly to provide access to the best study and research opportunities available, thereby strengthening the quality and competitiveness of the universities to meet the challenges of the future through the vibrant exchange between academic systems. And we've had people from this organization come to University of Arizona and talk about the differences in our systems. And they also help developing countries establish effective university systems, which in turn promote social, economic, and political development. They bridge divides and lines of conflict and encourage open dialogue between cultures. And we've seen that play out in some of the research topics that have been funded. We didn't really know, I think, kind of in the beginning if there was some particular agenda, but it seems to be very open. And also they work to stimulate interest in Germany, its culture and language, and to preserve language diversity in research and academia. So that's it for the mission.
So it's good to just be aware of these, and to the extent that your work or you yourself help them achieve their mission, be sure that you address that in your application at some way. So of course, all of this is complicated by the by COVID-19. And unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball, but as of now, and this is also complicated because not only does going to Germany depend on what is happening in Germany, but it also depends on the policy of the US and the policies of the University of Arizona. But as of now, the summer 2020 programs are expected to proceed with deadlines announced in May. and they have made awards for the coming academic year. They say that they are expecting to have competitions for the 22-23 school year. So just there's multiple places you can keep track of restrictions. And I think the bottom line is that it is complicated, but we do suggest that you go ahead and apply because this will not last forever, we hope.
They, as I alluded to earlier, they actually fund undergrads, grad students, master's students, doctoral students, postdocs, and faculty. And they're pretty broad by focus and discipline. They're mostly interested in language study, different internships. They have, for example, one with the Bonn legislature. They have study programs that are short-term and longer-term, and they have research programs. And generally, you can think about something over the summer, something that lasts 1 to 6 months, 7 months to a year, or 10 months to 2 years. And I think that they can provide a certain amount of funding. We have had people stay, I think, 2 years back when, and they can also provide additional funding. So it's pretty flexible. One thing important for doctoral students is to think about it in terms of your calendar for defending and all of that. So we've had some students who really wanted to go, but when it actually came down to it, either their advisor didn't want them to go at a particular time, or, you know, something wasn't right. So I really encourage you to plan this with your advisor and your the folks on your committee, and make sure that they also think it's a good idea. We've had a few times it's been said, no, it would be nice to do that, but you need to graduate first, or something like that. So if you're actually, I think, embarking on your research for your dissertation or planning that, it's a really good time to do that sort of thing. So, okay, next slide.
We wanted to go over the main programs that they have for graduate students. This actually doesn't cover everything. There are some internships and other smaller opportunities, but we're going to cover the big ones. So the Graduate Study Scholarship is for people who are finishing their undergrad. And actually, I don't know if you might actually be eligible if you have a master's. Georgia, do you know that? I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Well, that's what it says.
Yeah. And you want to do another master's?
If you have a master's. Yeah, I think that probably is. I've had some master's students go. I remember Kevin Peters went for a while. Maybe that was a summer program he went to, but summer language study or something like that, or some business thing. Okay.
So as you can see, the deadlines tend to be like October, November. It does depend on the field of study. They're not being accepted as at present, but we are hoping that they will announce the deadlines for 2021 in the fall or summer.
There's also a short-term research grant. That's the 1 to 6 month thing. So candidates with a master's degree, there's our answer, or a PhD aiming to be a postdoc are eligible. Rarely students with a bachelor's degree will receive an award for the research grants. It also supports a research project or a course of continuing education at a university or a research institute, and we've had people at both, in coordination with an academic advisor in Germany. So if you have an actual contact there, it's necessary to apply, and it's very beneficial in the planning stages. For most of these that we're talking about today, you'll apply directly to the office that is based in New York City. And for the short-term research, it's not eligible for the priority nomination that we can do, but you can still apply on your own. It's just not, if you receive this priority nomination, you have, you're put into a pool that kind of is selected first. But we've had people selected both ways, but short-term is not available for the priority nomination. And we've got the links there. There's also a little booklet that they prepare that explains each of these, and sometimes it's helpful to go through that as well.
And then we have the long-term research grants, and these are the ones that we'll talk more about the priority nomination through the University of Arizona, but these are the ones that are eligible for the priority nomination. These are for people who have a master's degree or rarely a bachelor degree, but usually it's a research project or a course of continuing education at a university that in general, it's for dissertation research. I can't think of any exceptions off the top of my head. And it's the same as a short term, but as the name suggests, long term. And we have the link for more information there. We'll talk about the application process as well.
And just FYI, sometimes it's referred to as the one-year research program and other places as the long-term.
Right.
So,
but the
they're
same thing.
interchangeable.
Yeah.
The COTUtel, I think, is really only relevant in our German studies department here, and sometimes we're not exactly sure about that one. We have had students that are has to be a particular agreement between the two universities. And I think the one that we have in German studies is the main one, where they study here, then they go to Germany for a year and come back. And you know, obviously a lot of faculty here do have connections with German institutions and research appointments in Germany and that sort of thing. So we're familiar with and work with a lot of those faculty, and they're in this review process that we go through. So with the COTUtel, it's usually a year to a year and a half. And you would have an advisor there and an advisor here, and you would end up with 2 degrees, or degrees from both institutions.
So we, as we have mentioned, there's a University of Arizona priority candidate process, and we suggest that anyone applying to the long-term doctoral research or the COTUtel go through this process. So what happens is that there's an internal process, and then we have a review panel, and then one person is selected, and they go into a separate pool with a higher likelihood of being selected by DAAD. As Georgia said before, part of this though is also helping you improve your materials. So we have also had people who have gone through the process and have not been selected as a priority and gone into the general competition and been selected. So it really does help strengthen your application to go through the process. Mm-hmm. So we have deadlines in another slide, but you submit the materials to us, and those materials that we ask for are pretty much identical to what DAAD is going to ask you to submit. So it's just basically an early deadline to help you get those materials done. Then a faculty review panel reads through the materials and comments on them. Then you are interviewed and you're given suggestions for strengthening your application. Then there's a one priority candidate, and we rank the other candidates. Then at that point you can edit your applications, and then you'll submit through the portal. Then we give them a nomination letter with a review summary of all the candidates. Clearly, we would like everyone who applies to get the award, so we're not going to say this person isn't worth funding. So we give a high recommendation to everyone. And like if there's the odd case where you weren't ready, then we would tell you that. We wouldn't kind of shoot you in the foot going forward.
Right. And these are the deadlines as we know them. And these are, I would say, are tentative. They generally have been the same each year, but you never know. So don't take our word for it. Look at the actual website, the New York website. There are two different websites, if we haven't mentioned that also. So basically,
Right.
we have an
Just to keep things
internal.
interesting.
Yeah. If you're in the arts, you want to deal with the German website. If anybody else, you deal with the New York website, because sometimes they have conflicting information on them. So we've learned all the tips and tricks from them as well. So right now we're asking for a September 10th deadline to submit your intention to submit an application. And then by the end of September, we would want to see basically your a strong application basically by the end of the month. We have a big do not submit in the DAAD system, because if you submit it, you can't edit it anymore. So you're going to work on it on your own computer anyway, on your, and that's what you'll submit to us. You can, though, obviously you should get online and set up your account in their system, in their portal. Then we will distribute your applications to some internal readers. It sometimes becomes interesting. We're asked to find readers that have either received an award from DAAD or the
Humboldt.
the Humboldt.
Yeah.
I was thinking Hamburg, and I'm like, nope, that's a city. And we'll have a review. So your review may not be exactly people in your discipline. It's whoever's available. And we will do our best to give you feedback. The actual review by the organization will find people that are more in your discipline or in your line of interest and study. We'll set a date with you for an internal interview. We usually take about 45 minutes, an hour, something like that. And you're asked to present, and we ask questions. It's similar to what happens with the Fulbright student proposals. And that'll take place at the beginning of October. And then we'll give you pretty much the rest of the month to make any revisions or to finalize anything that's not quite finalized. Sometimes getting those letters from an advisor in another country can be slow. And then basically, you'll do your revisions. We have an internal deadline for the faculty recommendation letter for the priority nominee. And we can submit that for your faculty person. This year, it was by email, and hopefully that will remain the case. And then you'll usually think it's usually an early November deadline to submit in the portal with your complete application. Then the next spring, March, April, we hear funding decision announcements. And in the fall, sometimes people leave in the summer, but mostly in the fall. The grant would start in the fall, but some people go early to do language work, and you'll take off. All things being a go with the State Department, the university, and Germany.
So this is just kind of an overview of completing the application. So they have a portal, which I don't think is terrible. I haven't heard too many complaints about it. So you do want to read the instructions closely and think about everything that's required and make like a calendar for yourself, a checklist with dates. You are going to need letters from somebody in Germany as well as from the United States. So you'll want to think ahead about requesting those. Then you'll need a language evaluation. So you'll have to make an appointment for that. Obtain all your transcripts and then put everything together. And often there's conflicts between the checklist and then like what's on the website. So you just have to work that out. I think it maybe is getting a little bit better.
It is.
Yeah. And then you submit to us, and you'll revise after the deadline. So that's kind of the process.
So the checklist basically includes the online application form, which you do have to get into the portal to start that. And you can do that and print it out, but just remember, don't submit it until it's closer to the deadline. There's a resume or CV, which has a maximum of 3 pages, 5-page maximum on publications. Remember, this refers to faculty as well as students. And then they want to see a detailed research proposal and information on your previous research work. And this is a 5 pages, a fairly detailed application. We've got a few that are a little bit longer, but it's certainly longer than a number of them. And they want to see a schedule of your planned work. So you've got to map out where you're going to be, what you're going to do, all of that. So it's sort of with another program we have, we always say it's not your dissertation proposal. It's sort of the activating of it that they're also interested in. You need that letter confirming supervision by an academic advisor in Germany. And actually that's been fairly easy for people to get, especially if you have a connection. If you don't have a connection or your advisor doesn't, then you really want to get going right now on something that you're going to turn in the fall, just to make sure. They call them university degree certificates. They have some other language also, but basically they're looking for your transcripts, not a copy of your degree. They're looking for your transcripts, but your transcript should say that the degree was awarded. And then I think that number 7 is for students from Germany that are applying, as I recall. And then they do want transcripts of all your university studies, regardless of country or if it was undergrad or whatever. And then there is a specific language evaluation form. You'll want to make an appointment with the German Studies Department to do the evaluation. And you need 1 signed reference form. And there's a form as well as the ability to upload a letter. So in recent years, people have been filling out the form, which makes it easier for the readers. And they also submitted a letter. So, okay.
So the reference letters are really important. So you can submit the form with a priority candidate nomination letter. So the form is really important, and I vaguely remember the program officer saying that the readers really the reviewers find that form really helpful because it's easier to compare across applicants. The reference letter should be written by a university professor. I believe you only have 1 letter. Mm-hmm. And in the past, they wanted like the letters sent by mail, but they've recently just been asking for emailed ones. So hopefully they'll continue with that. But these are really important. So you want to start, as Georgia was saying, there's many reasons to be working with your advisors about these kinds of applications. And even now is a good time to start talking to your advisors about these applications.
Here's some pre-selection criteria that we're asked to use at the university in selecting our priority candidate. And I think these are useful to think about regardless of what you're applying for. They are the general and subject related preparedness, the suitability of the applicant to basically be abroad or study there in Germany, the subject related quality, preparation, and feasibility of the proposal. And that can refer to political feasibility or having access to certain facilities or personnel, or it can be all kinds of things. They're really looking for you to have done some work there or to have prepared to do work there and to be very familiar with why you're going there and what you're going to find. They want to know why you want to do it. And usually it is an exchange institution, but at this stage that we're working with, you're usually going to be having a response to this related to your research and your academic and your professional career goals that make it useful. They're looking for a high quality reference letter. So we always tell people to ask if you can give me a strong letter of reference. Presumably this would be from your advisor. And sometimes we notice some differences in the quality of letters depending on the country of origin of the advisor. There just seem to be different traditions in how they're written, but they're looking for a very strong letter in this situation. And then the reviewers are faculty from a variety of disciplines, but they will try to find readers in your focus area. So just be aware of that. So when you think about the vocabulary that you use and acronyms and that sort of thing, you'll want to keep it in mind that not everybody might know very technical language. So you would want to do some explaining. So we look at all of those things and comment on them.
Yeah, and I think as George was saying, even if your reviewer is from your area of interest, they still won't be working on your topic. So part of the job in the application is not only to show why your research is important, but also why your field and topic are important. That's just something to kind of keep in mind, just to be able to step back a little bit and think about writing to people who have other interests than your area of interest. So we have a few tips, and our number one is to start early. We have a summer fellowship application development program, and we started this because people come to sessions like this and say they're going to work over the summer, and then they get back in the fall and they'd say we got so busy, which is really understandable. So we have program you can sign up, and we'll give you deadlines over the summer, and if you submit drafts to those deadlines, we'll give you feedback. And we have that's kind of the core of the program. We have, if you want to, you can join our writing sessions. We have some workshops and other things. So we encourage you to sign up for that if you plan to apply to DAAD or to any other fellowship. Mm-hmm. So also, as we said, there are times when the information on the website can be conflicting or confusing. So go ahead and ask us first. And if we need to, we can contact the program officer. Again, those contacts in Germany are really important. And so we would suggest that you start making contacts in Germany as soon as possible. And then, as we've said a couple of times, be sure to work with your advisor on these applications.
And some final tips for success. And I think this comes from the program officer, and she sat in on one of these sessions about a year ago. So express why a stay in Germany is critical for your academic or professional goals. Obtain a letter of invitation from a German professor or institution, and explain clearly why you chose the location or the program that you choose. Submit quality letters of recommendation. I think it used to be 2 letters, but now it's 1. And make sure your application is on time and complete and has been well read and proofed. So we'll add that on. And good luck.
Good luck.
Do you all have any questions for us?